Take projection.
Welcome to Check Your Shelf, the official book podcast of the Alabama Take Network. I'm Jaimee Hannah, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Jennifer Kimbrough.
Yay!
Yay!
Official co-host. Welcome, Jennifer, on a full-time basis.
Yes.
To Check Your Shelf.
I'm excited.
Jennifer has been a guest twice before. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of fun doing this together.
Yeah, I think we do. And we have a lot of fun texting about it every day.
Yeah, we were already talking about books like all the time. So this just kind of made sense. And it gives us more of a reason to hang out.
That's really what this is about, isn't it?
Well, it is. And also, I've noticed on your Instagram, you will tag all of your book buddies. Mm-hmm. And I'm never tagged. So I feel like now you will be professionally required.
I will. You're right. I do. I'll start tagging. So do you want me to tag you personally?
Oh, I'm kidding. You know, I don't ever want to be tagged.
No, you're getting tagged now.
I've held this in for the last couple of months since we started talking about this. I was like, I'm gonna make sure she knows.
Yep, you're getting tagged.
Your book BFFs. Jennifer's very, very active on Instagram, Bookstagram.
Yeah, Bookstagram. I'm not on TikTok. I mean, I am. I have a TikTok, but it's like I'm so familiar with Instagram that maneuvering around on TikTok feels like it's not user friendly to me.
Yeah.
Most people would say opposite, but so I'm not really on TikTok. I just have an account.
With your Instagram, like anybody who's ever followed a Bookstagrammer, like you do all of the things. Like that's what, even if I didn't know you, I would follow you because you have those, like all of the templates and you post a lot, you do reviews and
I try.
Everything's very organized. So needless to say, Jennifer will be taking over the Check Your Shelf Instagram.
I've kind of tiptoed in, so I've been doing some posts for about a week now, trying to grow the follower count. And I think so far what the challenge has been is not overlapping what I'm brainstorming for my personal thing with Check Your Shelf.
Okay. So those will be, so do you need the book gal and Check Your Shelf? We'll have different content. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is very, very exciting. I'm excited to have more than one post per month the day the podcast releases.
I'm hoping to do 3 posts a week. That feels very, very manageable.
And you do a good job with the not reels. What are they called? The stories. You do a really good job with the stories. Yeah. I am turning into Ron Swanson. Like not even slowly. Like it's happening quickly. Like I like if I could like drag a typewriter to work and just type all my stuff out. Like I'm so happy because like the book community is so rich and there are so many cool things that happen and I do follow it. I just don't like to be the content creator end of it. So
well, technology, all the things on it are changing. Most of the time I feel like it's changing faster than I can learn it.
Yeah.
Like every update will be, some updates are huge, and then you've got to relearn everything. And so, technology is changing fast.
It really is. Like, I don't know. I think this will be good. I think it's going to bring a lot of new listeners. I need to send you some numbers later. Like our downloads have gone way up. So apparently if you have a podcast and then you put it on Instagram and you don't just like when people come up to you and say, hey, I heard you had a book podcast, go, oh my God, where did you hear that? Like if you actually like really try to push it, like it'll do pretty well. So so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Whole new world and permanent co-host. So
and it's fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
2 people to share it all.
Yeah, and we'll still have we're still going to have themed episodes. We're going to have guests come on. We've got some really fun things in the works as far as guests. We're talking about doing some author interviews, more book reviews. We're going to not only be more active on social media, but we're going to drop some bonus episodes. That should be
just mini episodes, I guess.
Yeah. And like some of the things we're talking about doing is like specific book reviews. So like Fourth Wing is going to have its own episode once I finally finish it. And I've got a special Stephen King episode that will be coming up as a bonus episode in October. Just lots of new things. Check Your Shelf is officially 1 year old in September. So
it should have a birthday party.
This should be it. Wait, wow.
We didn't do very well.
Think about that far.
Happy birthday, Check Your Shelf. Happy birthday.
So it's a good time to bring in some new things, change things up a bit, and see where we can go with it. So
we've got a lot of fun things.
Yeah, we were very appreciative to everybody who has listened thus far. There's been lots of growing pains and some technology issues, and we're so excited that Oscar is still hanging around to do our book reviews for us. He will be back with this episode. You're going to hear some really good reviews from him. And otherwise, we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics today, and it's probably what we talk about more than anything else in the world. Yeah. Sorry to our children. We talk about Book of the Month Club probably more.
We do.
Than sharing updates about our own children. So
we're constantly texting each other about Book of the Month Club.
Yeah. So why don't you kind of give an overview of the process? Let's not assume that everybody knows, because I really didn't know. I knew what it was, but I didn't know like the deal until I started.
Well, I don't go about anything halfway, and so when I was trying to figure out what it was, it's actually been around since like the early 1900s. Did you know that? I know. And it didn't become it was an actual club that met, and then it became a subscription box during COVID. That was when.
During COVID?
I think. Maybe not. Why? Have you had yours since before then?
No, I didn't have mine until 2021. I just thought it was a.
Well, I think COVID had. Okay, I'm gonna have to look this up. I think it had something to do with them going subscription box based.
Okay.
Because everybody was at home.
Okay. I mean, that would make sense. I just thought, I don't know. I thought it had always been through the mail. In the 90s, I was a part of the Stephen King Book of the Month Club, where they, like you got
one of mine. So this, and this is something I'm going to put a link in the bio of our Instagram, but Jaimee and I each have a referral code, and you can get your first box for $5 for that month. And when I used a referral code, I bought for the whole year because it's just cheaper when you get for the whole year. So once a month, they release several books that you can pick from, and there's like a thriller, historical fiction, romance, women's lit, all that, you know.
Every once in a while there'll be a YA.
Yes.
And every once in a while there'll be a nonfiction, but those are pretty rare.
And there's almost always a fantasy. So you can pick one book with your credit that's part of your membership.
Because that's what you're paying for is like it's $17.99 a month for one credit, which equals one book.
Right. And then they keep giving us these perks. And so now you can add on up to 4 more books, right?
Once you are at best friend status and you get your book of the month back, I sound like I'm in a cult.
Oh, best friend status starts after 1 year.
After 1 year.
I'm not at best friend status
That's
yet.
when you can get 5.
Yes.
Like it's,
I can get 3 right now.
Okay, yeah. And that is, it's, it just went to 5, and it's 5 books, but also they're deeply discounted. They're like $9.95 a piece.
Well, mine are $11.99.
Do they just go up? I wonder if they just went up.
I think this is the year they went up.
Because
you're grandfathered in on the old plan.
Okay.
But still, $11.99 for a brand new hardback.
That may not even be in stores yet. Like when we say new stuff.
Right.
Like
a lot of times they haven't been released yet.
Yeah.
They're maybe, they're not like super new. Maybe it'll be released in 2 weeks.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
But yeah, that's still a great deal. Because
it's a great deal.
If I were to walk in Target right now and get a hardback, it would probably be 20-something-ish at least. And Books A Million would be 30-something.
Yeah.
So $11.99 is a great deal. And then, and after a year, apparently you get this really fancy bag to keep all your books in. I'm not there yet.
It has a book pocket. I have 7,000 bags, and I don't know why this one is so special.
You told me about it immediately. You were so excited. And I learned this. I'm not there yet either because I'm not a BFF. But after you reach BFF status, you get 2 credits your birthday month.
What?
Do you not get that?
This may be. I wonder if this is the first year that they've put that in. What I knew about was the 1 credit for your birthday, and then you get one of the book of the year finalists for free. So they probably have just upped that where you get 2 for your birthday month with the BFF. So
I could be wrong. You get something extra your birthday month for sure.
And yeah.
And yeah. So
and I love it how we're just like, they give it to us for free. Like, we're not going to buy these books for $11.99. My box has grown so big. Like, I have very, very terrible like restraint issues when they. Another thing about book of the month, I know I didn't finish that sentence, but this is important to it. All of the books are good. They're very guaranteed.
They're like highly vetted.
Yeah. So they're good. And then you can get them for cheap. So it's like, why would you not get all of the books you possibly can, especially if you have a book problem? So
yeah, I mean, and they make for a really pretty shelf.
They really do.
Like all the little book of the month logos on the spine. I mean, it's a very cohesive shelf they make for.
Yeah, yeah,
so.
Yeah. You're totally right. I love it.
Yeah.
So where did you first hear about Book of the Month Club, and what made you want to join?
And they got me. They influenced me with an ad. And so I had been wanting to read Kiss Her Once for Me last Christmas. Mm-hmm. It's I kept seeing it. It was like it's a LGBTQ romance, and it's Christmas themed. And I kept seeing people reviewing it, and they were all tagging Book of the Month Club. And I was like, what is Book of the Month Club? And so when I don't sit and worry over things for very long. The minute I saw a $5 on your first box, I just was in. And I went ahead and paid for the whole year. I was like done. So that was my first one. So it was in December. And I highly recommend it. It was a 5-star for me, and it is by Allison Cochran. And now we're approaching the holidays again, so I try to read my themed books. Like I'm not going to read a Christmas book usually in June. So that would be something I'll probably reread it again because it was great.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. Well, I found out about. Well, I mean, I knew it existed, but I had never considered joining it. But Patrick, who is the co-host of the Alabama Slam with my husband Corey, was like, "Hey, your wife is a librarian. She likes books. Maybe she would like Book of the Month Club." And then also you get those sweet referral codes that you can pass around.
And then when someone uses your referral code, we get a credit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So It's like he got a free book. I got inducted into the Book of the Month called. Like, it worked out for everybody. But yeah, so that's how I found out about it. And I was really intrigued because he reads a lot of fiction. And at that point, I did not. I was in grad school, I was in library school, so I was taking classes on like materials and services for young adults and materials and services for like, middle readers kind of. So I was reading tons of things, but I wasn't reading anything like grown up.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
And then I read some nonfiction. Like, I would put some nonfiction in here and there, but I was like, I have a blind spot with contemporary fiction, so this may fix that. And I was in from the get-go. Like, they nailed it. First book I picked, which is going to be the first book I talk about in our review section. Like, it was great. It was exactly what I was looking for, and I have been super, super happy with it ever since. I want to have Patrick on here sometime to talk about about books. Yeah, and Book of the Month Club. Every month when I pick my book, I'm always like, I wonder what Patrick is getting. So I want to go back to something you were talking about because it's so funny, like the way you described it versus how we actually live it. Jennifer was like, so once a month you choose your book.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
Choosing the book. That is like Bama Rush levels of like internet engagement that week because
everyone posts like, what are you getting? It's like everyone's trying to figure out what they're going to get
ahead of time, like predict what's going to be the book of the month, which Jennifer posted.
I did a post, to try to predict. There are a whole bunch of blogs out there where that's what people do. So I went down this deep rabbit hole of Reddit, YouTube, people that have YouTube vlogs, and then regular blogs, and there's a lot of it out there of people trying to predict.
Yeah,
it's like
And here is a trick of coming from a librarian. You can go ahead and put those books on hold at your local library as long as they're going to be big. If they're on these lists, they're going to be big releases. Yep. The library probably already has them pre-ordered and in the catalog, and you can put them on hold. And then that way you're on hold before it releases as a book of the month pick. Because once that happens, it's just like it goes crazy. And then you'll wind up, one day you would have been second in line, and then the day after it releases, you would be like 26th in line because everybody's coming for that same book now. Right. Because some people can actually like only get one book. Like they're not like me where I feel like I have to have all of the books, but like they have willpower and they're like, I will choose this one book and then I will get these other books from the library.
Or even, I know we're wanting people to subscribe to Book of the Month Club because we love it so much. But if that's not in your budget, it is still an excellent resource for what great books are coming out. And then, like you said, get them from your library.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and then they don't tell you ever what day they're going to post on the website.
No, they don't.
They'll send you, it's usually between like the 28th and the 1st. Like we're in the season.
It's not today so far.
Oh, it's not.
I looked. Yeah. I looked to see.
But you'll get an email that says, hey, the books are up. But if you obsessively check, you like what we've discovered is that email comes a good 4 to 6 hours after they post. So if you just want to like just keep hitting that app.
Like you'll text me a lot of times and be like, the books are up, and I haven't gotten an email yet. So we start watching for that.
Yeah,
and we're almost there.
We are. Yeah.
Except like, what was it, last month or the month before, they said, here's our new selection, and then it was like a blank screen for 6 hours or something.
Yeah, that was awful. And then
it was something to laugh about.
And the number of books changes because it's no fewer than 5, but it can be as many as like 8, right? Yeah. That was something else recent that they changed.
Sometimes there might be like 2 of, let's say, like a thriller or
Yeah. Well, do you want to go ahead and start doing some reviews? We thought it would be fun to just pull out some of the ones that we've read and just do kind of like a quick fire review back and forth of like some of the books we've read and chat about those to kind of give y'all an idea of what kind of books you can get from Book of the Month Club. I feel like this would be probably a good time to say we are not sponsored in any shape, form, or fashion.
We aren't. We are just obsessed.
Yeah, this is just what we like. So,
but if you want to sponsor us, Book of the Month Club, we would be open to it.
You may be the key to that with our fancy social media now, Jennifer.
I know, I might. I might.
So we're gonna start going back and forth. And Jennifer, do you want to start with your first pick?
Yes, since it is fresh on my mind, I'm gonna do what I just finished for my August. Okay. All right. I have not read a thriller that I didn't like from Book of the Month Club. I feel like their thriller reviewer, whoever's reading those, is like on point. Yeah. I read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, and it was freaking fantastic. Now, okay, I have to give a little disclaimer. I am an audiobook girly, and I did get it from the library. Did I? No, No, Scribd. Sorry. I downloaded the audiobook because sometimes I want to like go back and forth. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing with Book of the Month Club. Now you can use a credit on an audiobook.
Yes, that's brand new.
That is brand new. And the reason I don't use my credits on audiobooks is because I want them on my shelf.
Right.
I want the stacks of books. So anyway, the audiobook is absolutely amazing. The plot is a podcast. And they record it like they're doing a podcast a lot of times, like their sound effects, and I mean it's good. It's a full cast, so good. It's a wild ride. The story is.
So what's it about?
So it's about there's this woman and it's her birthday, and she sees this other woman who it's also her birthday out in a restaurant, and she introduces herself to her, and she convinces her to let her be on her podcast. And she wanted it to be like, "Hello, I'm your birthday twin." I think that's the name of the podcast. Mm-hmm. And she starts telling her this whole kind of just her life, because she's told her she's fixing to make big changes in her life, and she tells her all this crazy stuff about her life. But I mean, the title of the book is "None of This Is True," so you're probably dealing with an unreliable narrator the whole time. Mm-hmm. So the whole time, as you're hearing this crazy tale that this woman is telling of her life, that I mean, it's a doozy. And then at the end, of course, you know how there's always the plot twist, and apparently I didn't know this, but the plot twist, a lot of people have misunderstood it. Mm-hmm. And they thought something else was the plot twist that wasn't. And so now Lisa Jewell has been addressing that, and it's good.
That's interesting.
It's good.
Okay. I have it at home.
I couldn't quit.
I love that kind of thriller. Mm-hmm. I love it so much when it's like you just keep turning those pages.
Yes, it was so good. Fantastic. It's my first one I've ever read by Lisa Jewell, and apparently hers are all pretty great.
Okay. My first book is actually my very first book of the month club selection that I got in July of 2021. And it is called 56 Days by Katherine Ryan Howard. So in 2021, let's see, we were still kind of in COVID-ish, but it was like we kind of rejoined the world a little bit. So this book was set in Dublin.
Oh, and I love when a book is set in Ireland, period.
Yeah, and I listened to this too. I went back and forth, and it was like...
Are they Irish?
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was wonderful, yeah. So in this book, Sierra and Oliver meet in a supermarket line in Dublin and start dating the same week that COVID-19 hits in Ireland. And then like 3 weeks later... So that's 56 days ago. And then 35 days ago, the lockdown happens, and they're like, what are we going to do? We just started dating. I really like you. So Oliver suggests they move in together. And Sierra is thinking, okay, well, this would be a good way for us to get to know each other without a lot of outside influence. Mm-hmm. And without our family and friends being all nosy and in our business and everything. Well, then Oliver is not who you think he is.
Oh, this is a thriller?
It's a thriller,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going between those two timelines, but then there's a third timeline that's present day. And what happens in the present timeline is that detectives have shown up at Oliver's apartment where the two of them were cohabitating, and there is a decomposing body.
Oh, good grief.
So they're trying to figure out what happened. So you're reading Sierra and Oliver's story, jumping across those two timelines, and then you're also reading the detective's point of view as they're trying to solve the murder. And who is it? You don't even know who it is.
Okay, I'm going to have to read this.
Yeah, it was super good.
Yeah.
And then, do you ever read a book and you're like, you just kind of, it's just like a wing and a prayer, and then you find out later that it reviewed really well, or it was that's how this one was for me when I was looking through it again. It's a New York Times pick of best thrillers of 2021, and it was a New York Public Library best book of the year. So, yeah, it's got credentials.
It does.
Yeah. So that is 56 Days by Katherine Ryan Howard.
All right. I'm adding it to my TBR.
So what's your next one?
So let's talk about one of my add-ons. This is going to be one of my favorite books I've read this year.
And an add-on, just what's an
add-on? So like you get your credit that you've paid for, and then you can every month, if it's not one of the monthly picks, they also have these books that are in kind of another category that are add-ons, which maybe, I don't know. I don't really know the reason. I don't think it's because they weren't good enough to be a monthly pick, because some of them are really great authors, like that have been like repeat authors on Book of the Month Club. I just think maybe they were trying to give someone else the spotlight or whatever for the monthly picks. So this was an add-on that I added into my cart after I had used my 1 credit for that month. And it was, it's an upper YA historical fantasy, Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Yeah, that's her name. So it leaves you on a cliffhanger too, and the next one doesn't. I mean, a literal cliffhanger, and the next one doesn't come out until December, and I'm just done. So, okay, so imagine you've got mail, but instead of computers, magical typewriters that have been in both of these people's families for, generations and generations, but also they are rivals at work. And there is like this is a romance, I guess, romantasy, we'll call it. I called it fantasy, but romantasy. And there's a war happening between different gods and goddesses. But this war is written in a way that mimics World War II. Like, there's trench warfare, and they talk about the riding in the green lorry, and did I say that right? I said that right. That's one of those words I see all the time on a page, but don't always hear spoken. It very much mirrored if I was reading like a World War II romance. So they both sign up to be war correspondents. And they go, and they still neither one realize, that the other is who they're typing to on these little magical typewriters. But of course, how You've Got Mail ended, and it all works out, but it leaves you on a cliffhanger where you don't know the fate of one of the people. And the war is like ramping up. It's getting worse, and you don't know the fate of one of the people. Even though this is this war setting, I remember it made me so happy. It was like, I don't know how a book set during a war could make you have like so much hope, but it really did. It just made me smile and feel just super happy. So this is, and if you are on like the Bookstagram world, this is probably going to be a top favorite for a whole bunch of readers that typically wouldn't even read fantasy. It's just excellent.
And give us the name and author again.
Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross.
Okay.
And the next one that comes out December 26th is Ruthless Vows. And so it was not supposed to come out till April, and she moved the date up, and everyone celebrated.
And is it going to be a trilogy? Do you know?
No, I think it's a duology.
It's a duology. Okay.
I hope. I like duologies.
I do too.
Sometimes a trilogy is a bit too much for me.
Yeah, and that middle book, sometimes you just feel like
sometimes it's like a placeholder.
Yeah, it's just like a little bridge.
Yeah. P.S. Fourth Wing is going to be a 5-book series, and I don't know how I feel about that. It's a lot. I'm afraid I'll lose steam, but we'll see.
Yeah, who knows? We'll have to see.
All right, what's your next book?
Okay, so this next book, let me show you the cover. I want you to put this on our Instagram. So
Hello, Fabio.
So for my next month that I was in Book of the Month Clubs, this probably would have been like August of 2021. I was like, I'm going to pick the book I am the least likely to read, judging by its cover. And it was a book called Vladimir by Julia May Jonas. And the cover is there's just so much going on. It's a man's torso, and he has his shirt open, and he has on a gold chain.
That gold chain.
Yeah, it is It is every book I would ever have walked right by in a book.
I'd say.
And what's funny is if you buy this book now, they changed the cover, and the cover is very sophisticated, and it really kind of matches the story a little better. This doesn't.
Okay.
They were playing up to a certain crowd with this cover. But anyway, it turned out to be really, really good. And it is about the narrator of the book is a popular English professor, and she's married to a professor, and they're at this like small liberal arts college, and he's under investigation for inappropriate relationships with former students.
Oh.
So she is going through all of that with him, and they have this like one of those understandings about their extramarital pursuits. But with the allegations, like things are not, it gets very uncomfortable. So all of that is going on, and they're dealing with that. And then there is a new professor who comes in, this young guy named Vladimir, who starts working at the college. And he is a celebrated married young novelist. And she becomes infatuated with Vladimir. But it is so much more than all of those things I just said. Like when I finished this book, like I just kind of walked around like for a full day, just thinking about.
So would you consider it a HEA, happily ever after, or no?
Maybe it's
because it leads you to think it's a romance book, but there's really strict criteria for romance.
I don't know that I would call it that. Then. I don't think I would. It's more of like, it's more contemporary literary fiction. Like this is way more complex than I was anticipating. But it really made me think about aging, because the narrator is an older woman. And, you know, she's looking behind, she's looking ahead, she's looking at where she's at. And it's just a lot of ruminating on that and where your choices have led you. And I was shocked, like, at how deep this went. Like,
how much you liked it.
Yeah, psychologically and philosophically. Really, Vladimir was just a prop, like as a guy. He was there because he made the narrator go through this whole process, and that's what you're really reading about. So yes. I would highly recommend it. Maybe not to just everybody. And if you are looking for a traditional romance, probably not. If you're looking for just a really good, very well written, just literary fiction, that is Vladimir by Julia May Jonas. And get the new cover. Because this one,
unless you like hairy-chested men in a gold chain.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my June picks was The Wishing Game. I have been saying the authors. I was second guessing myself, but I can't. Oh, do you have it sitting right there?
It's in my basket. I brought this gigantic basket of books with me in case my social media person wanted to. Yeah, Meg Shaffer.
Meg Shaffer. Yep. I was losing my train of thought for a minute on that. All right, The Wishing Game. I think she's a debut author as well, and that is one thing Book of the Month Club tries to do. I think is spotlight debut authors. So this was I don't know if it has formally been called a Willy Wonka retelling, but that's what everyone's comparing it to.
Yeah.
So there's this teacher's assistant, and she has this student that he's in the foster system, and she wants to go through the home study and adopt him, but she is living off a teacher's assistant salary, and she doesn't even have her own place. She has these roommates and all this stuff, and so she knows she would never be able to afford it or even be able to pass a home study. So her very favorite children's author, who has not written books in years and years and lives on like his own little island called Clock Island, he hosts a contest, and whoever can answer the riddle will get an invitation to come onto Clock Island and stay and participate in his event. And whoever wins this whole like competition, imagine, going into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, but you're going to this author's Clock Island. Whoever wins gets the one and only copy of his brand new book and the publishing rights and everything and all the money that you would make from selling it to a publisher. So she knew the answer to the riddle because it's her beloved author from her childhood. She gets to go to the island, participate in the games. There is a slight smidge of romance in it. Nothing scandalous. I mean, literally just, oh, you're my confidant now, and I've got a crush on you and all that. But it has, I mean, it was very, there was a few moments I teared up. I mean, we're dealing with a child in foster care and things he's dealt with. And
he's a delight.
He is. Yes.
It's a very charming book.
Yes. I mean, you have to suspend your disbelief for this book, though.
Yeah.
Like, you definitely do. When I was reading it, there was a lot of times I was like, ugh. I mean, if I didn't know I had to suspend my disbelief, I don't know, this wouldn't really happen. But you have to suspend your disbelief. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was very fun. It was another one that I just wanted to keep on reading because you're just rooting for the girl so much.
Yeah.
So you want, you know how it's going to end, generally, but there's just a lot that happens in between. And I was just rooting for her so much. And it was a happy book.
Yeah.
It made me feel really happy.
It's upbeat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're a fan of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think you would enjoy it.
Yeah. And you could give us the name and author of
The Wishing Game by Meg Shaffer.
Meg Shaffer. Okay.
I didn't realize you finished it.
I haven't. I've gotten to the island. We just got there to the island. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did I spoil anything for you?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
My next book is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Mm-hmm. And I'm apparently a big Taylor Jenkins
I am. I've read
Reid.
every book of hers.
Golly, this book was so good.
Uh-huh.
And I started it and I was listening to it and and then it was all the rage. So I only got like a 20% in before I had to return it back to the library. And I was like, well, and I wasn't sure if I was sold on it yet. But then the time it took for it to come back around, like I thought about it constantly. I was so excited when I finally got to get it, and I finished it in a day, which is unheard of for me. I never, ever just read a book, like that much of a book in a day. But it's set in the 80s, and it's about 4 famous siblings who basically throw a big house party filled with famous people and... I don't even know. I feel like I can't do this book justice, like describing it, but like each of the siblings has their own drama going on.
Their baggage.
Their own. Yes. Yeah. But you love all of them. Like they're also like, she writes the character so well. So it's set in Malibu in August of 1983, and you're reading about the day of the party. I also apparently like a book where it's like 56 days, 55 days. Now this was like 12 hours before the fire, because it ends with the fire. Like, that going in.
Right. Nick Rivas, isn't that their dad?
Yes. Yeah.
So also, I don't know if you know this, but he's a cameo character that's been in several of her books.
No, I didn't know that.
He was in Daisy Jones and the Six. Daisy Jones partied with him.
Okay.
Carrie Soto
was in this. Yeah.
Okay. She was in this one. He was mentioned in her book, Carrie Soto's book.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a little bit of they just make little cameos in her books.
What's funny too is I've read I keep going to the Carrie Soto is back and like reading the synopsis, and I'm like, I just don't know that I'd like this. But then the little bit you get of her in this book, I was like, oh, she's awesome.
Yeah. I like that one a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to read it. The thing with Malibu Rising that I want to say that I think Taylor Jenkins Reid does extremely well is she tells the story behind the story. Like she did this with Daisy Jones and the Six. But one of my favorite parts of the book was the timeline where she's telling the Rivas kids' parents' story, like them falling in love, like Mick and their mom falling in love, and what it was like with them as kids. And there is this one like little subplot with one of the kids that I can't spoil it because it's too big, but it's just a perfect example of every time I read a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, there's always something I'm not expecting. And then when I find that little, and it's not even like a twist, it'll just be like just a little thing, but it's just like, oh my God, like it makes the book so much better.
She's excellent.
She really is. And I hope that they are going to adapt this one because I think it would be really good. But that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I think that this was actually a Book of the Year finalist with Book of the Month Club.
I think you're right. Then that would not surprise me.
Yeah.
That's a really popular book.
What's your next one?
Okay. So July. All right. I love Katherine Center. I've read every book Katherine Center's ever written. I buy her stickers on Redbubble. She's a romance writer. Hello, Stranger. It is so unique. When you think of romance books, you think pretty much you know the formula. This girl is an artist. She has to have a surgery, and I don't remember why she has to have the surgery, but the surgery causes her to have a problem with her eyes where it's like facial distortion, and suddenly she cannot see people's faces, face blindness, and it's a real thing. Mm-hmm. So she describes it like when she looks at people's faces like a Picasso painting or something, like it's just squared off and maybe the eyes are on the bottom and so she can't see people's faces.
Okay.
So she meets this guy in her apartment, but she doesn't know his face, and they become, like really close friends. Well, her dog also has to go to the vet, and she and the vet also become really close friends. And I mean, you pretty much know the whole time that she's fallen in love with the same guy, but she doesn't know it, which, again, suspend your disbelief. But we're talking about a romance book. But then there is also some depth to it, like with her, her mom has passed away, and he helps her with some of that grieving process. And she has a terrible relationship with her stepmom and her stepsister. And there's some working through with all of that. And Katherine Center just writes books that they really just make you happy. Her books are always closed door. There's not anything that, she just writes. If you ever saw her in an interview, you would understand. She just writes very cheerful books. So even though the whole time you're reading, though, that eventually that this is the same guy and all this stuff, and that eventually she's going to figure it out, watching it play out the whole time for me, this was one of those books I stayed up until like 2 a.m. because I couldn't quit reading, because I couldn't wait for the moment when she realized this whole time that because of her face blindness, she'd been only dating one guy.
Okay.
What I kept thinking the whole time, though, like, how'd she not know his voice was different? Oh, I remember. Never mind. I did think that, and then it cleared that up.
It does
too.
explain that.
It does explain that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that was something I was like, how does she not know his voice is the same, or just his shape, and
Yeah.
But it was a very unique plot, the face blindness thing, which is an actual medical issue people can have.
What's that one called?
It's called Hello Stranger by Katherine Center.
Okay.
You're sounding so skeptical.
I have so many questions. Like,
suspend your disbelief.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I'm not always good at that. So yeah, maybe I should practice that by reading the book, because it sounds cute. It sounds really cute.
Laura Lott, I think, read it, and she did not give it a 5-star, but she enjoyed it. She didn't dislike it. There were some things she struggled with more than I did.
Okay.
With the whole suspending your disbelief thing.
Okay. I might give that one a try then.
Yeah, it's just, it made me happy.
Well, and I like some murder. in my books. So
I either want murder or I want to be happy. Either or. So.
So my next book is called She Started It by Sean Gilbert. To be honest, this was not my favorite book that I've ever gotten from Book of the Month, but it got points because it kept me reading. Like, it wasn't disappointing. I just didn't. I like it. I like to be able to root for a character, and there's not a very clear good guy in this book. But it's about 4 best friends, and they're out of the blue. This girl that they bullied in high school invites them on a luxury vacation on a private island in the Bahamas. So I'm like, red flag, like, let's go.
Like, who would do that?
Like, yeah, like, okay, that's problematic. But they're all very like superficial, and they're really into like money and nice things. So they're just like, well, yeah, we'll go see what's up. So they go, and it's just it's exactly what you think it would be. And if you were ever bullied in high school, like, it may be a refreshing little revenge read for you. I don't know, but it's good. I mean, it's fun. Like, I read it in 2 days. That's, to me, it gets points for that, because it kept me turning those pages.
Pretty quick for you.
Yeah. And also working against it because of the plot. You're literally with, like, I think the whole book may have like 6 actual characters, and then you hear about, like, you know, people's husbands and some other stuff. And one of them is an Instagram influencer, and I think it really stressed me out because they're on this island with no like internet, and she's still having to worry about content. And you know, like, Instagram's how badly that stresses me out just in my real life, the little bit that I do with it. So I think that there were a couple of different layers of why this book may not have been for me, but I still recommend it. Like, if somebody is just like, I'm going to the beach, I want a recreational thriller that I don't have to put a lot of brain power into, this is a great one for that. So, but it's called She Started It by Sean Gilbert. And I think this might be her debut novel.
I think you're right. I've seen it a few times. Okay, so my next one, this was one I got in my February box, I believe, and it's Maame.
Okay.
And again, I can't remember the author's name.
I'm the overachiever who has my stack of books right next to me.
I know. Google the Maame author's name while I'm talking about it. Okay. So Maame is about a girl who she's a late bloomer. She has spent her adult life caring for her father, who has Parkinson's. So she has not gotten to do the things that someone would normally get to do as an adult. She has never left home. She's never had a boyfriend. So, meanwhile, her mom goes back to their African, they immigrated from Africa. Her parents did. And I want to say maybe Kenya. Maybe, I don't remember exactly where her parents are from. And her brother's out living his best life too. And she's the one that she's like the peacemaker in the family, and she has not gotten to just live her life. She has a job she doesn't love. And this isn't a spoiler, because I'm pretty sure in the description. So her father's illness gets worse, and he ends up passing away. Her mom moves back, and she has this time now, even though she's grieving, she's been given this chance to finally get to experience adulthood. So it's like a late bloomer coming of age story, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Like, she's figuring out who she is. Like, what is her purpose? She's trying to figure out why she's working this job that she hates. She's trying to figure out what type of person she would want to be in a relationship with. She gets roommates. She, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think she like smokes marijuana for the first time, and and she's like in her mid to late 20s. So she's just living all these experiences that a lot of people would have already done in college because she spent all her time caring for her father.
Okay.
And so it's just an endearing story. Like, and some, you know, I cried a few times. Like, you're watching her with the grieving process and the guilt of I don't know, you know, she's finally getting to live her life, and that's wonderful. But the reason she's getting to live her life is because her father passed away. And so there's like this underlying guilt and grief she's having to deal with. And it was just such a good story. So who did you figure out the author?
Yeah, it's Jessica George.
Jessica George.
So
that's
Maame, Maame by
Yes.
Jessica George.
And she also, it's just, she learns to stand on her own 2 feet.
Yeah.
Speak up for herself. It's just considered a late bloomer coming of age story, and it made me very happy.
Okay.
Again, I just want my books, like I said, I want them to make me happy, or I want someone to be murdered.
The librarians love this book too, by the way. I have not read it, but it's on all kinds of like librarian lists and stuff.
In fact, you know what? I think you helped me make my decision on that by telling me that.
Oh, okay.
I think you told me when I was trying to decide.
Awesome.
That it was on a lot of lists. It's just an excellent story.
Yeah, it's so good. I bet.
There was a lot of moments that were kind of laugh out loud moments as well.
Okay.
So.
Okay. That's good. Okay. So Maame by Jessica George. Okay. The next book I'm going to talk about broke my heart a little because it was kind of a stinker. This was an add-on. This was not a book of the month, like monthly selection, but it's the only one left by Riley Sager. And I really feel like people are not going to agree with me because it's been rated really well on Goodreads and on Amazon.
Everybody seems to love it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with you did not.
Yeah, no, I didn't. And I really do like Riley Sager's stuff, but I just feel like they may have been trying to do a little too much with this. Okay, but also the cover of it's set in the 80s, and doesn't that look like an awesome like 80s cover?
Mm-hmm. And it makes me think of Agatha Christie. The cover does.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, it does. It does, yeah.
Almost like it's playing on that, too. And then there were none.
Yeah.
The only one left.
Well, it's basically playing on the whole Lizzie Borden massacre. Like, it's inspired by that. So
okay.
It's let's see. I wrote down a little thing about it so I would remember, because there's just so much going on in the book. So it's 1983. There's a home health aide who gets hired to go to this estate called Hope's Inn, and she's going to be caring for Lenora Hope, who in 1929 was accused of killing her mother, her father, and her sister in this Lizzie Borden style massacre. And there's even like a little poem about it that the kids say. So now she's in her 70s. She's confined to a wheelchair. She can't move. She can't speak. She can move like one hand to like tap yes and no. So Kit is this home health care person, and she's trying to get her story. Like, she wants to know like what's up. Mm-hmm. And it just had a lot of potential, but there's a lot of characters and everybody. It's one of those things where it's like everybody's part of the mystery, like down to the last page. Like, you just want to be like, okay, stop. Okay, stop. Okay, stop. Like, if Riley Sager had backed off, like left the last 3 pieces off, it just got kind of muddled and confusing to me.
Okay.
Also, it is not fair how high my hopes were going into this book.
That's
like,
why it broke your heart.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, because I was like, this was the checking my mail every day book. I had the audio ready to go as soon as the book got here, because I didn't want to start the audio without starting the actual book. Mm-hmm. So I was just super, super disappointed. But he's like, Riley Sager's a great author, so this one may just not have been for me. I don't like to say like a book was bad. It just wasn't for me. Yeah. Right. So I wouldn't recommend it, but this is a good example of the level of author, like, because everybody these days knows who Riley Sager is. So it's like the kind of the level of like authorship that you do get from Book of the Month. And I just finished this last night, so I wanted to make sure I included it. So, but that is the only one left by Riley Sager. I may be completely wrong, because like I said, everybody else on the internet loves it. So you may love it. So check it out. Okay, what's your next one?
All righty. I'm gonna go, and I don't think you liked this one, if I'm not mistaken. Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez.
There was way not enough murder in that book for me.
Okay, it's a romance. And y'all are going to learn as this podcast goes on that I love romance. It's probably my number one genre that I'm going to read and love. And I have read all of Abby Jimenez's books, and I've loved them all. So it's fake dating. That's the trope you're dealing with. Bree is a nurse. Jacob is a new doctor, and in the emergency room. She's like a surgical nurse. He's I think a surgeon, and he has severe anxiety, social anxiety.
That is written in a very realistic way.
It is, and that is why I gave it 5 stars, because okay, so they just have this it's like she gets him and no one else ever gets him. They just want him to just do it anyway.
Suck
it up. Quit letting that be a problem for you or whatever. And she gets him. And so my daughter and my husband both have really bad anxiety. And I tend to be the suck it up kind of person. I'm like, well, you're going to do it anyway or whatever. And reading this was such an eye-opener for me. Like, all these things that Jacob did, I watched my husband and my child do also. And it got really, it was like it got into their headspace, like why they're feeling this way. And it was just written so realistically that it made me sit and really think about what have I done to not be the most empathetic I could be for these people that, that I love very much. And I will say it's a fake dating trope. One of the least liked tropes in romance is the miscommunication, and that was so absolutely frustrating for me in this book. Yeah. Because I'm okay with a little miscommunication because I think that's life. Yeah. I think we're all, miscommunicate sometimes, but this one kind of got drug out probably a little more than it was a lot, and that frustrated me. And it probably, I was so frustrated that had the anxiety rep not been written so well, I would not have rated this one as highly, because the miscommunication was excessive and frustrating. But there, just the way she wrote social anxiety and anxiety as in general was probably just the most realistic I've ever read. And I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with that too. I was really impressed. I feel like that came from a place of real knowledge for her. Like, I agree. Like, it was, and it was cute.
Yeah,
it was cute. Sweet. I just don't usually read, I usually don't read romances. And it was just like, when I was reading it, I enjoyed it. But then when I put it down, I didn't like obsess about it. Like, I was like, this is fine. It's like watching good TV.
And I think I would have been that way had I not had such an epiphany when I was reading it, it would have just been another romance.
Yeah.
And I actually have talked to a few people who live with someone with severe anxiety, and they've all said the same thing. It's like they had not ever seen it written in such a way that made them think, wow, that's how they feel.
That's what what that's like for them. Okay. And that's Yours Truly by Abby
Jimenez.
Okay, so we've got time to do one more each.
Okay.
So I had to pick. I saved like my 3 favorites for the end too. This is tough. I'm going to talk about I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai. I texted you when I was reading this. I was like, have you read this? Because I need something to happen. And like after I texted you, like things started to happen. So what this is about is there's like this really successful film professor and podcaster named Bodie Kane. And she is invited by the boarding school that she went to for high school to come back and teach a couple of classes, like in one of those 2-week interim periods or whatever. So she takes that offer. She's teaching a podcasting class, and one of the high school kids she's working with, her podcast topic is going to be investigating the death of Thalia Keith, who was Bodie's roommate.
Oh.
And that happened. This would have been like 1995. So Bodie is like, okay, you can do that, but I've got to stay. I've got to keep it at a distance. I'm just here to teach you the craft of podcasting. But there were so many questions around the murder. And it was one of those things where it was like looking back on it, like 30 years later, they made a mess of the investigation. She has held on to some information that when she was 18, didn't think it was important. But now that she's an adult and she does true crime podcasts for a living, she knows like, oh, I should have, if I had said this, would this have made a difference?
Right.
So it's so good.
So you did end up liking it a lot.
I loved this book. And honestly, I may have given it 4 stars, but I want to go back and give it 5 on Goodreads. Like it was that good. And I think one of the things I really liked about it was I graduated in 95. So these kids, like this murder happened in 95 and these kids are in high school and they're listening to the same music and they're feeling all the feels. Like it took me like
so it
right
had a real
back.
nostalgic feel for you.
Yeah. And it's written very accurately, I think, for like the teenage brain. You know what I mean? So it also has a time jump, and it is probably like my favorite time jump that I have ever read, because it like
when you say a time jump, what do you mean?
Okay,
like
so
time travel?
No, just a time jump. Like it's divided into 2 sections, and so the first 2/3 of the book is like part 1, and the last third is part 2.
Okay,
so you're like in 20, I don't remember, but you go 4 years into the future.
Oh, okay.
So these kids have graduated. Mm-hmm. She's no longer working at Granby, but things that they did with this podcast is kind of like, this isn't really a spoiler, but it's kind of set the ball rolling for things to be re-examined in the future. And it is so good. It's probably, the time jump comes exactly when you need it. Like just when you're like, how much more is there to tell? She stops telling it because she's done. Like the author is like, okay, we're through with this part. Now we've got to jump ahead, and I've got to leave enough space for us to look at the results of these actions, and the work that these kids did and stuff. Oh, so good. The characters are so well developed. There are throwaway characters that show up in these larger roles in like that second part of the book. There are red herrings where you think, oh, this guy's bad, but then he's never mentioned again. Like you just don't know. Yeah. Like you have to really get engaged with everybody. So
this has been on my TBR for a while. It's kind of new, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I've been eyeing it for a long time. I guess it started popping up on lists before it actually came out.
Yes, because Rebecca Makkai, she was a finalist for the Pulitzer and the National Book Award with her novel, The Great Believers.
That's right.
So she came into this book with a rep. So
yes,
but it is so good. I want to read it again, like immediately. It's like true crime, but it's not true crime. It's like a thriller, but it's not a thriller. Like I don't even. It's just really solid
that sounds really
fiction.
Good.
It's so good. And that's called I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai. This is the book I told you that the podcaster that I have that love-hate relationship with, like she did not like this book. Like everybody's loved this book. And then she didn't like it, which made me want to love it, but I wasn't loving it, like because I'm petty. And but yeah, no, I think she needs to reread it because it was really good. So
maybe it hit her at just the wrong time.
Maybe so.
That happens.
Maybe so. And also, I think with this book, the more condensed time period you can sit down and read it. Like if you can just, this is what you're going to do for a couple of days, a day or two. Like I think it tracks more. Like if I had spread this out over a couple of weeks, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much. Like you got to keep the momentum going. So
right.
Okay, what's your last one?
I've been sitting here eyeing my list while you've been talking, and I think I'm going to go with Lessons in Chemistry. I read it in January. It is set in, like, let's say the 50s. It is a woman in STEM, and it was a time when no woman was in STEM. She marries kind of her rival, but she wants to make her own way, and she's struggling, as a scientist, a woman scientist, because no man is taking her seriously. Mm-hmm. She loses her job, and she's trying, and then her love of her life is accidentally killed. I don't think that's a spoiler because I feel like that is, I've read that a lot on things. Okay. So she has to figure out a way to just make a living because she also has a child now. She ends up on this show. She gets a spot airtime on like a 6:00 show, and she does a cooking show. Mm-hmm. But she teaches chemistry while she's cooking. Like, she will use the scientific names for, like, let's say salt or whatever. But, I mean, yes, she's teaching chemistry, but what she's really doing the whole time is empowering women. Mm-hmm. And there were so many moments, like, she kind of speaks to the crowd while she's doing the cooking. And there were so many moments I literally, like, cheered out loud. Like, I was so proud of the women, how she empowered these women that were housewives and who thought they weren't really capable of doing anything but sitting at home and cooking dinner for their husband or whatever. And it just made me, like, I don't know, it just made me, like, cheer out loud, literally. Like, I, like, whooped once or whatever. Like,
okay.
And there's also a found family element. She becomes, like, with an elderly neighbor. Like, none of these people have family, and they kind of create their own little family unit. And that is just a wonderful. It's just wonderful watching how that all comes to be. There are the negatives I've seen are, like, some of the thought processes that she has. People say, well, no one was thinking that in the 50s, or no one was. But I mean, I'm just like, you don't know that. They might have been thinking it. They just didn't say it or whatever. Yeah. We don't know that people weren't thinking the things she was thinking. So,
okay. And that's called Lessons
in Chemistry. It's by, well, dadgummit. Look at me, not prepared.
Okay, Lessons. I should know. I mean, like, I feel I'm a librarian, and it's on every.
It is, and it's actually being made into a movie.
Bonnie Garmus.
Yes, it's being made into a movie. Okay. It's just kind of a, I guess you could say, a feminist manifesto.
Nice.
It's taught through cooking and found family.
Cool.
I loved it.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our Book of the Month Club segment. We are going to now hear from Oscar, who has had a very eventful summer, and he went to camp. Oh. And he did not get to read a lot at camp because during rest time, they actually had to rest. His mom told me he was very disappointed. I love Oscar so much.
That sounds like me as a child. But I'm not sleepy.
He's like, this is my reading time. So we are going to, we're going to hear some reviews from him. And then when we come back, we're going to do really quickly what's on our TBR list for September.
Hi, this is Oscar. I've read a lot of books this summer, and these are my favorites. Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Riordan is about a boy named Percy Jackson who lives in a small apartment in New York with his mother. Percy never really knew his father, though. One day, on a school trip to a history museum, he finds himself in a room with the three Furies, Electo, Trisophone, and Megaria. They start attacking him, and all of a sudden, his Latin teacher, Mr. Brunner, comes galloping in on a horse for which he the horse. Percy has more to understand about Greek mythology as he realizes that Mr. Brunner is a real-life centaur. Renegades by Marissa Meyer is about Nova, a girl who lives with her parents and sister in a city full of people that have extraordinary powers. Most of these people join a team called the Renegades. They are superheroes. She is one of them. She has a power that no one else has. She can put people to sleep with her touch. One day, a murderer comes to their apartment because of her father. She does not know what her father has done. The murderer kills her parents and her sister. She's the only one that survives. She sits on the balcony crying, "The renegades will come. The renegades will come." But they don't. City Spies by James Ponti is about a foster girl named Sierra Martinez who is an amazing hacker. One day she hacked into the New York foster system to uncover the secrets about her foster parents, who only keep the children because the state pays them. But instead of becoming a hero, she is faced with trial at the New York court. Then a mysterious lawyer comes to her aid. Can Sarah trust him? You can find all these books at your local bookstore or library. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Oscar, for those reviews. Everybody check out all of Oscar's recommendations, and I am excited to see what he's going to have for us next month.
Yes.
He always knows what's good. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about our TBR list for September. I've got two. Let's do two apiece.
Yeah.
And you can start with that one.
Okay. I'm gearing up for spooky season. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably going to stretch it out between like September and October because I have a long list of, and I'm going to get burnt out if I just read a whole bunch of witchy books or whatever, you know? So I actually won this on Goodreads. Do you do the giveaways on Goodreads?
I have only participated twice and didn't win and immediately stopped doing that.
Oh, every single time I get the email that says a book you've shelved is up for a giveaway, I enter. Okay. I won, and it's called Bring Me Your Midnight. It's Upper YA by Rachel Griffin.
Okay.
It is fantasy, witchy vibes. She her whole family's been in a coven, but they've lost some of their powers because of the way they are in society, and she's kind of being forced into a marriage, and it's going to help them regain back into their full power. And I honestly don't know much else about it besides that, but it has really great reviews, has a beautiful cover, and I won it.
Awesome.
So I didn't even have to pay for it.
Even better.
I know. So Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin.
Okay.
It's just a real, I think it has a very atmospherical feel to it. Witches, coven, all that.
Okay.
So
my first book is actually, I received it it was my book of the month club pick for August, but I didn't get to it, and I was kind of saving it for when I could focus solely on it. But I'm kind of glad I waited because I keep hearing better and better things about it.
Oh.
It's called Shark Heart, A Love Story by Emily Habeck. So it is the strangest book I've ever heard of in my entire life.
That's kind of what I've gotten from it.
So I'm actually just going to read like a snippet from Amazon because I don't even know how else to like describe this book. For Lewis and Wren, their first year of marriage is also their last. A few weeks after their wedding, Lewis receives a rare diagnosis. He will retain most of his consciousness, memories, and intellect, but his physical body... But his physical body will gradually turn into a great white shark. As Lewis develops the features and impulses of one of the most predatory creatures in the ocean, his complicated artist heart struggles to make peace with his unfulfilled dreams. I don't know what it is about that summary. It breaks my heart. I can't even deal. I think this is going to be the best, saddest book in the world. Like, I cannot wait. And there's some other weird stuff that happens. Like there's apparently a woman pregnant with twin birds that shows up. Like it is.
Are they sharks?
They're birds. No,
birds.
They're birds. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It just all sounds. It just all sounds so very strange. And I can't wait to read it. And it's funny that I'm the one that's excited about it because I'm the one who has trouble with that suspension of disbelief or whatever.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with this like the first time I read the synopsis. And
I remember you told me. About it. Yeah.
I told my husband, I was like, hey, listen to this. And I read the synopsis to him and he burst out laughing. And I was like, this is the saddest thing I have ever heard. And then he was like, why is it sad to you? And I was like, well, just think about like, when we first, I can't even say it. Like if we first got married and then one of us turned into something completely different, but still the same on the inside. There's something, I need to take this to my therapist because like there is something deep in this that has got me just really like torn to pieces.
It's an allegorical kind of.
I guess. I don't know, but it sounds so good and I can't wait. And now that I've kind of finished up this book of the month review, I'm going to be focusing on Shark Heart this coming up week over Labor Day weekend, I guess.
Yes. All right.
What's your next one?
I actually have the arc for this, even though it comes out at the end of September. This is a romance girly. Lucy Score. This is the third book in the Knock 'Em Out series. It's the final book. It's called Things We Left Behind. So I don't know if you read very many interconnected romances, but typically it follows either a friend group, a family group, or whatever, and they slowly pair off.
Like Bridgerton. I know about
probably,
Bridgerton.
Yes.
Okay.
So you've known from the beginning there was tension, a past, trauma, all these things between these two characters, Sloane and Lucian. They hate each other now, but it's like a fine line between love and hate, you know? Mm-hmm. And there's a whole lot of below the surface stuff. And this is their story. Okay. And we're going to learn why they hate each other now. And obviously they're going to pair off because everyone's pairing off. We know that from the previous books that Lucian is a victim of abuse from his father. Mm-hmm. And they were next door neighbors their whole lives growing up, Sloane and Lucian.
Okay. I love those names.
I know. And she calls him Lucifer. And they all call her Sloaney Baloney. She's a librarian. Okay. And growing up, like nobody knew that they actually were like the very best friends because he was like the star football player that got football scholarships, and she was a little nerd who always read books, and she was also younger than him. But this is gonna be their story, and every book in this series has really been gearing up for this book.
Oh, okay. So tell me the name of the series again.
Knock 'Em Out.
Knock 'Em Out.
That's the town they live in.
Okay.
And this is called Things We Left Behind, and it's by Lucy Score.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
I love them. They're a little longer than they should be. Each book is like almost 600 pages, and I'm like,
sorry.
Gummit.
You can just let me know.
Dadgummit. I feel like maybe she needs, sometimes I think maybe she needs a new editor, but also her books are Kindle Unlimited books, and they're paid by the page through Amazon.
Okay.
So that explains a lot. There's so many like cents per page that are read. I don't know. I've read the algorithm before, like how it's figured out, but
because I've read some super long books, like It by Stephen King is one of my favorite books, and it's over I think it's over 1,000 pages. I would have read 500 more on top of that, but yeah, sometimes I've run into that lately a couple of times where I'm like, if we had just shaved like 100 out and made it like a 300-page book instead of a 400-page book, it would have been even better.
Right.
But yeah, that pay-by-page thing could really make a difference.
You want a long book. But I mean, it's also one of, like I said earlier, part of the formula for a romance is an HEA, happily ever after. So we know they're going to get that because that's the genre it's in. Okay. So we're real excited.
Okay. Sounds good.
The romance world is very excited for this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. The next, my second one is Holly, which is the new Stephen King book. It releases in the next few days, and I'm super excited about this. It just basically follows the character of Holly Gibney as she's going to investigate something, and it's going to be awesome. She is one of Stephen King's very favorite characters that he's ever created. And I just feel like if I were a fictional character, that's like the best thing I could ever ask for. Because
to be his favorite
character, because he puts so much. Yeah. Like he does. I think his character development is super, super good. Anyway, I think that's one of my favorite things about his books. But you can tell when he really loves and invests in somebody and keeps bringing her back. And so the character, people who don't read Stephen King or who have not read any of his books with her as a character, she was in the HBO series The Outsider with Jason Bateman and I forgot his name, but he plays is he a Skrull or is he the other thing? I can't remember. Ben Mendelsohn. I think that's his name. Ben Mendelsohn, who I love. Obviously not enough to remember his name, but I do like it when he shows up in things. But Cynthia Erivo played Holly Gibney in that. And she's like kind of like obsessive compulsive and she thinks in like numbers and she's crazy sharp. Like she's one of those characters that's just fun to like watch her put things together. So
is this more of like a thriller or a horror?
Probably I'm going to go thriller. The Outsider, though, I have not read the novel, and I know that the show took some liberties with her character, so I'm not sure what else they took liberties with. The show had a supernatural element, so
okay.
I'm just going to read it and see what happens. I'm ready for a new Stephen King book.
And his books don't scare you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And you're okay with that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to, I'm just at an age where I don't like to watch a scary movie anymore, but I'll read it or I'll listen to my favorite podcast right now is called Ruined, and it's two friends and one watches the scary movie and just tells the other one about it
I don't even
detail.
want to be told about them.
I don't know. Something like as long as it's filtered.
Scared.
I can handle it, but I don't want to watch it.
Aren't we a pair? You want really Stephen King, and I want the happily ever after.
So this may work out great.
It's going to be the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is.
I mean, I like to throw in some murder. About once a month, I read a thriller.
Okay.
I got to keep it real.
Well, and I like to read outside the box. One of the things and I'm not stealing another TBR thing because I'm not going to get to it in September, but I want to read that Juliet book you and I talked about, that new one that's the retelling.
Oh, I'll tell you about it later. We'll talk about it.
Oh, well, maybe I won't. Okay.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, cool. Off tape. Okay. Well, that is it for this month. Jennifer, do you want to talk about what we have coming up or on our social media, or tell people how they can get in touch with us? Because somebody will actually answer now.
Yeah. Okay. So we have Check Your Shelf podcast on Instagram. My most recent post was me predicting the Book of the Month Club picks. So we're hoping. I'm so excited to see how close I got and how many. And I'm always you can always DM me in those messages because I check it. I mean, I'm on it multiple times a day. Mm-hmm. So
if you have a specific question for me, Jennifer will send me a text and be like, please get into the Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Check Your Shelf podcast. That is our Instagram. Yeah. And do we have an email address?
Yes. checkyourshelfpodcast@gmail.com. I can handle that end. Yeah. So send us a message. If there's also, we're going to be doing more episodes. So if you have topics you want to talk about, if you I have a pretty big Stephen King project that's going to be coming up. So if you are a fan of any of his books in particular and you are not averse to being on a podcast, shoot me an email and let's chat.
If you're an author, reach out to us because we want to do author chats.
Yeah, we want to do all kinds of cool things. So, but thanks again for listening, and we will be back we'll be back for our main episode in October, but we may
surprise y'all with some little mini episodes.
Who knows?
Bonus.
Yeah,
Bonus
you never know
episodes.
what to expect from us now.
That's right. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.